So in the news right now, Trump has just banned all student visas, which is weird. I mean, I think it's hilarious because, we shouldn't be importing students. I think you should have to
Yeah.
have like whatever it is, you should have to have a minimum IQ of 140 to qualify for a student visa.
Mm.
Like these schools shouldn't be using student visas to just import radicals or people that are like, oh, let's see, this says the Trump administration has ordered all U.S. embassies to halt student visa applications as the president cracks on America's higher learning education business. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has directed. By the way, shout out to Marco Rubio. Like he's been doing a great job. He's really. I know that like a lot of people didn't like him. But I think
he had that like historic rivalry with Trump. So in some ways it seems
little
like
hands.
some of the antipathy towards him, and maybe I'm wrong, but some of it was like a hung up on, previous presidential elections. They seem like they're working to get well together now.
Yeah, so effective immediately in preparation for expansion of required social media screening and vetting, consular selections should not add any additional student or exchange visitor F, M, and J. I don't know. Those must be visa types. Appointment capacity or further guidance. I mean, okay. By the way, these students generated $43.8 billion through tuition, housing, and living expenses, according to NAFSA. I don't believe that. Not just student visas. That has to be all students. Wait, I'm wrong. It says there's 1.1 million international students between 23 and 24. Okay, so that's...
Oh, wow.
I believe it, and in part from what I know about the way admissions work at universities or private high schools, often, and we got like two stories about student visas. Sometimes it's people from underprivileged backgrounds from other countries who get the full scholarship and everything like that, and that does happen. But a lot of the time, people who get student visas are students who can pay full tuition in America. And that's one of the reasons countries want them, because they are, going to pay them top dollar for the education, in part because going to university, whether it's undergraduate or graduate in America, it's a status symbol. One of the first stories that broke after this announcement that he was banning student visas at Harvard that came out was that the Princess of Belgium, the one that's in line to become queen, is in the middle of this because she's getting her master's at Harvard. She's completed 1 year.
Tough break. Tough break.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, she's not one of the stories where it's like, oh, she gets a full scholarship and she does whatever. Like, I'm sure she's paying for it because there's no reason to not have her pay for it.
Right.
Oh, no way. No way. I 100% disagree with that statement.
Really?
Claire.
Ooh.
She's not paying 1 red cent for that education.
That's
Are you kidding
true,
me?
because then she's...
Harvard's like,
Yeah.
now we can say we
The
have the
status.
princess here.
I
No
disagree. I
way.
think if it was like University of Michigan or like a random school somewhere else, maybe they would give her a scholarship to make her want to go. But Harvard gets application from every elite child in the country. And so they don't need to hand out scholarships. Like, she's just the queen of Belgium, right? Like, maybe if she was the queen of somewhere else, like, it would be different. But they get courted by the wealthy elite. It's not the same for other schools that are maybe less influential. Like, if University of Delaware gave her a full scholarship to get a master's there, I would maybe believe it. But Harvard, I think, is like, we get our pick, And again, this is a little bit mean of me, but like sometimes with Harvard, it's just a level of arrogance. Like, they believe they're the best school in the country.
Are they charging Mahmoud Mohammed tuition when they import him from Syria?
See, that's the case where I think they aren't. But in this case, any like wealthy white person, I bet, pays full tuition at Harvard.
Well, they took
that is their duty.
Didn't Harvard take in Jazz Jennings, the transgender, as well?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And then
they admitted David Hogg after he was rejected the first time around.
He's a survivor. Don't you slander his name.
Oh, I forgot. He's incredibly important to Harvard.
In the case of Jazz, it's just like, just because he was a transgender kid, he was a kid that they mutilated on television,
right?
Then he gets a scholarship at Harvard. It's insane.
And
yes,
I don't
Melonie's
think
right. Jazz goes to Harvard.
Yeah.
Well, Jazz is not going to make 40. I look, actually, you know what? Jazz Jennings is a victim.
Oh yeah, for sure. I agree.
So I take that back. I really hope she,
He-
succeeds. He succeeds.
Yeah, I agree.
But like, yeah, it's different when it's someone who's like already an adult and they're doing this stupid
I
crap. Then I'm
agree.
like, you asked for it.
He
But they
was
were doing
groomed
this-
into it.
Yes,
he was groomed
yeah.
ever since he was a
Five.
little bitty kid. His
Yeah.
parents saying he was trans and that he knew he was trans because a fairy told him when he was 3, I think it was, which
And
is
he wanted to wear his
insane.
sister's high heels. It was awful.
Oh, everybody's trans who does that. Once I dressed up as Dolly Parton for Halloween. I guess I was trans too.
I guess so.
What
I'm
do you
glad
do?
you're coming out there, me. I want you to feel safe with us.
I feel on this show, especially when I'm with two nurturing, loving women, that I can
Truth
tell
out.
my truth. I can share my story. What do you make of? I honestly, my initial reaction to this is, don't care. They have to go back. I get that there's going to be some baby with the bathwater here. Still don't care. Go to school, and I keep getting told that the UK is so amazing, so go to school there.
Yep.
I don't care. I do have a problem with it all happening under the guise of anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't know, and I don't think Trump has to tie it to that. I think you should just say, nah, student visas are not a net positive for America. We're importing people. A large percent of them hate this country. Many of them are getting paid tuition through taxpayer endowments to these universities. At least some percentage of them are radicalizing Americans. We just don't need it. They can just go home.
I do think that these Queers for Palestine on campuses are getting ridiculous. It is getting absolutely insane. So I can understand some of the frustration with that, and we're seeing a lot of that radicalization at colleges on campuses, especially with this Queers for Palestine movement. So it is getting a little out of control.
What do
just
you?
don't
Yeah, go ahead,
know
Anna-Claire.
where. Oh, don't worry, Jeremy. I'll tell you what I'm thinking. In fact, I'll up both of you to do it.
Yeah.
No, I just don't understand where in our Constitution or any of our laws we wrote that we guaranteed that we would admit foreign students to American universities. I think there are probably many foreign students who contribute to universities who are positive in some way, but I don't know that because we have done it in the past, we have to continue admitting them or giving them student visas. And I generally think that overhauling our legal immigration policies is an important part of reducing migration overall, because you have to put the American citizens first. And maybe in the future you change it. Maybe 5 years from now you start letting some amount of student visas back in. But we never said we had to, and we never said it was going to continue forever. It's weird how much the world expects America to give to them. And I think it's done at the expense of the American citizens. So I guess I agree with you, Jeremy. Like, there are some people who probably totally fine. It'd be nice to have them here. They probably do some interesting work or some research, whatever. But does it come at the cost of Americans? Yes. Okay. Therefore, we don't have to guarantee we're going to do it. We have to put our own people first.
Yeah.
Right.
Imagine when you have 25% of Harvard are foreigners, 28% of Yale are foreigners. Wouldn't it be nice to have those? I'm told that these schools are great, and that they're, the premium education. I don't believe that, but that's what they said. If 25% of their student body, which must be, what did they say, like 1.1 million? There's like 1.1 million international students, that some of which, a non-zero percentage of those, the American taxpayer is paying for. Why don't we put our own students? Why? Maybe Harvard would be a little bit easier to get in for a working class guy if they didn't submit. And by the way, there's a more sinister side to importing these, foreigners, is that there's a lot of dark money tied to that.
Oh.
There's a lot of Qatari money going into these universities. There's a lot of, sponsoring of this or that. Trump aren't the U.S. the U.S. government is sending billions to Harvard. Like,
Mhm.
these should not be businesses. They should be education places. And like, I just, yeah, the U.S. government gives billions of dollars to Harvard, but Harvard isn't forthcoming. We want names and countries. Harvard has $52 million. Use it and stop at billion. Sorry, use it. No, million, right? Million.
52.
Million.
Oh yeah, million. Yeah.
Use that and stop asking the federal government to continue granting you money. I mean, first of all, I didn't know. I never have any problem admitting that, I'm always learning. I had no idea that we were sending this much money to these universities.
I didn't know that
crazy?
either.
When I was reading this, I knew we sent a lot of money, and it's also this weird ecosystem where all universities are pro student loans, even though it puts all of their graduates in debt because they are the ones getting the money. But if you were to take away the federal money and you were to end student loans, how would this be operating? And if you can't operate as a university on the donations that you get, which usually you get some sort of tax rate for, and the insane tuition you're charging, something seems wrong to me. Like, why are we so intensely subsidizing universities? It just seems like a broken system that we just continue on forever, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm for this. I'm not for doing it for anti-Semitism, but I think this is great. I also like where Trump was like,
it does say billion on here in the writing.
Mm-hmm.
It says billion in the writing, but that's
yeah,
million.
in the numbers that was million. You're right.
Yeah. So I think he meant 52 billion. It's just a typo,
I think so.
classic Trump typo.
Yeah.
But like, I also liked, he's like, oh, we're gonna cut 3 billion of funding and give it to trade schools. I was like, based? Fine by me.
Based. Trade schools are much better. It's and people are actually able to get jobs out of trade schools because I mean we need people in these jobs and so it's just it's a better alternative for most people than college even, and racking up a ton of student loan debt. And unless you're in like a super specialized field like a doctor or something like that, trade school is the better option. I never used my degree at all.
Either. Yeah. Well, especially with AI and H-1Bs. The other thing is, now when I tweeted that, I was like, I voted for this. And then some people in the comments were like, how about we don't give anyone 3 billion tax dollars? Like, oh yeah, actually that's probably better. Like, but if I have to give my money to a school,
trade schools getting this money, because here's the thing: is it's going to encourage. I think at any point, if we can encourage the youth to get into trades, that's an awesome thing. That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be able to have really productive jobs, and there's been a huge need for that right now. Where it is with Gen Z, they're confused. They don't know what to do because they saw millennials. We all went to college. It was the thing to do. It was what we were taught to do. Well, then look what happened. We were stuck with these degrees that we aren't using, and we have all this student loan debt. And then it's like, oh, but our degree, I was told I was going to be able to get an amazing job and get all this money.
I was told that directly.
And it didn't happen. Yeah,
my guidance counselor specifically said, "Oh, if you go into management computer systems, you'll make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year." Mm-hmm. By the time I was in my second year of college, that job didn't even exist anymore.
Right.
It was all Indians that were getting imported from other countries. Like,
I remember this list coming out when I was a senior in high school, and it was like the top paying degree is petroleum engineering. And I knew so many people who were like, okay, that's it. Like, I'm going to be a petroleum engineer. Like, I am just in this for the salary, and who knows if they have ended up. I don't know if any of them ended up being petroleum engineers.
Well, not when they found out that they had to go live in the middle of nowhere in Texas, which is where those jobs are.
Right.
I'm gonna go to. One last point I want to make is that you get what you incent, and so if as a nation we incentivize going to trade schools, the way that we incentivize going to four-year schools, more people will go.
We definitely need to incentivize something for the youth, because right now they're doing nothing. They are laying on their butts. Like, I'm seeing a lot of videos on TikTok of these, they're these kids that are approaching 30 now, and they're like, "Oh, I still live with my parents, and I didn't go to college, and I don't know what I want to do with my life and my career. I don't know what I'm doing." It's like, even though us millennials went to college and didn't even use our degrees, at least we jumped into adulthood.
Yeah.
No, because right
You
now,
launch.
the
Yeah.
Gen Z, they're not doing that. They're not even launching into adulthood, and they don't even want to. They have to. A lot of them aren't even getting their driver's license. So it's like we have to, at some point, encourage these kids to grow up.
It's weird because a lot of them are living vicariously through people they are following online. But it's also feeding their own sense of low self-esteem and depression. And so to a certain extent, like, and this is kind of an abstract connection to make, but I wish that every college in America had to go out of its way to be like, please come to our school and do something. I wish that we wanted to engage with our own people. Instead, it's like colleges that don't need to worry about money because they can either fall back on federal subsidies or student loans, can also just import students from somewhere else. And it continues to just let our youth wallow. Now, they're also responsible for having dreams and pushing themselves and becoming ambitious. Like, it's a multifaceted issue.
Right.
But I think having something out there, or at least being like, I think Jeremy talked about this last week. You know, I think some of the conversations that we have to have with like our rising young adults is just like, you need to do something. And the thing that you start off doing at 18 isn't necessarily your career forever. You know, like if you get a vet tech degree right now, like maybe you'll go on to become a vet. Maybe you'll work as a vet tech forever and love it. Or maybe you'll do this for now and then find something else you're passionate about and do that.
Go get the job at Amazon until you figure it out. You can still move your life forward. Those guys that work in the Amazon factories make $25 to $30 an hour. That's more than enough to go get your own place and start your life. And then you can do what everyone else does. You know, go to night school, do whatever, get into your job. You know, there's really no excuse for waiting around.
Well, and some of the most ambitious, like people who end up having the best work ethic that I know are people who start out with like small goals. They're like, I want to work a job and save up, let's say $20,000 so I can travel for 6 months. And then from there, they go on to do the next thing. Like, I think so much of the narrative around figuring out what you're doing or what you're doing at that age is like, because you have to do it forever. And then are emotionally fragile or at least beaten down Gen Zers or whatever generation's coming up is like, but everything is too expensive and far away. So I'm just going to stand still and therefore atrophy. And it's not okay.